Look at this guy drinking coffee from the Australian Open mag. Well, we are bonding. Do you feel it? You feel like you want to subscribe. But on a serious note, I figured I will create one more video before the final pick between 4 rackets from my ultimate tournament of rackets, between the Gravity Pro, Diadem Elevate Tour, Solinco Whiteout and Tecnifibre Tfight 305. Some of you follow me from the beginning, some are newcomers, so I will try to explain the road to the finals, which fights were a bit more complicated, which picks were much easier. And yeah, let's go one by one and talk a little bit more about the rackets, this one specific thing that made the difference. Alright, so of course Tecnifibre Tfight had a bye, so it had a relatively easy first round. But yeah, the next was Head Prestige Pro, which was a very difficult pick. Oh, by the way, most of the rackets already have like at least 2 reviews. One separate review for the racket itself, and the second is a comparison review as a fight between 2 rackets. So I figured it will be just easier to create this final pick between those 4 rackets instead of creating separate videos for semis and final. Too much ground already covered, and I think this way it will be still entertaining to watch. First round for the Tfight 305 was against the Prestige Pro. Prestige Pro, amazing swing control. I love it for that. You have great control of how deep you can play. Tfight gives you a bit bigger toolbox, and I repeat it quite a lot, toolbox to work with, so you can play a bit higher, a bit lower, a bit more power on counter punches. Prestige Pro is a bit better for the attackers that kinda execute the first punch in the rally and don't want to step down from the gas. And sometimes I just want to play and feel the ball, feel the point. Prestige Pro is a bit more tricky here. Also, I'm a strong believer in 18-19 string patterns. It gives you just more options to pick from. When you compete, I am picking a racket mainly for competing, so I don't really care that much if I make a bit more mistakes, if I also make other guys make mistakes more often. So yeah, Prestige Pro, great racket, but I decided to go with the Tfight 305 here. On the other side, Prestige Pro had a fight against the Percept 97D. The fight was a bit easier for the Prestige compared to the Tfight versus Prestige. Basically, same things applied here. With the Prestige Pro, I had a slightly bigger toolbox to work with. The pocketing, the dwell time, Prestige kinda holds the ball a bit longer, so it's a bit easier to shape the ball. Percept 97D has more power. It's great for those attackers. The Percept itself is a bit stiffer in feel, and the head is a bit stiffer, so sometimes the Percept was and is a bit too hot in response. Like, it's a control-entry racket that sometimes performs closer to the radical line. This flex style is not to my preference. I prefer the Prestige flex style, so it was a bit easier pick. Next we have Tecnifibre TF40 16-19 string pattern against the Tfight 315. This was an interesting fight because I am looking for performance, and Tfight gives me more performance. TF40 is a king when it comes to feel, and it was basically trying to figure out how much more performance does the Tfight offers me, so I have to give up this feel from the TF40, and I figured that it's not enough more to compensate for this slightly worse, or maybe slightly, for me it was big enough difference, and I didn't want to drop this feel from the TF40. TF40 moved to the next round. Next we have Head Radical Pro against Diadem Elevate Tour. This was a quite easy pick. Elevate Tour, better feel and a bit better pocketing. Also, on top of that, the power level is maybe a bit bigger. The spin potential similar, but probably the flex style is a bit more consistent. The response is a bit more consistent than the Radical Pro that sometimes is shooting a bit further. Similarly to the Percept line, I would say, but even a bit more. Elevate Tour, yeah, easier pick. Vcore 98 Tour versus Percept 97H. Yeah, again, a bit easier pick because Percept 97H was just too heavy for me. I don't see that much need to play with such heavy racket. Vcore 98 Tour, great for spin, great for counter punches. Overall, it was just easier to play with and compete with. Then we have Head Prestige MP 1819, which is a qualifier to this tournament. Won against Head Prestige Tour, Yonex Percept 100D and Solinco Whiteout 1820, so quite an achievement already. So yeah, I like this frame a lot. So against the Solinco Whiteout 1619 I actually had issues picking one. I might be revisiting the Prestige MP. I would have to modify it slightly because I mentioned that in stock form I kinda lack a bit of weapons with the Prestige MP. It's great in defense, but not so much when you really want to take over the rally. More control than I had from the Percept 100D, more forgiveness than from the Prestige Tour, more comfort and even spin than the Solinco Whiteout 1820. Those were a bit cleaner picks. Maybe I stopped a little bit with the Prestige Tour because I like the way how it felt swinging. Similarly to the Head Prestige Pro, something with the heavy Prestige rackets is just magical. The wave distribution of those heavy Prestige rackets is just amazing and suits my swing style and my vision of how I want to execute the shot, and also it is giving me a bit more control, so even if I don't hit it perfectly, the ball still stays in the court, so it's a great line for competing. I decided to go with the Whiteout 1619 basically because, yeah, again, it offered me a bit more toolbox to work with, more power on demand. However, I modified the Whiteout quite heavily, so not sure if I can still reference the racket as a Whiteout 1619 because I added around 15 grams to this frame and the final specs are actually closer to the Prestige Pro. But yeah, 1619 pattern gives me just more options to work with. It is a wide string pattern, so it's definitely not acting like a Prestige with 1619 pattern. It's more like a maybe Pro Staff or Blade, but still the wave distribution is closer to the Prestige line. So yeah, it's an interesting racket, and I appreciate that it is easy to modify it, and it was quite easy for me to achieve my desired specs quite fast. Next we had Head Speed Pro against Head Gravity Pro. And this was a difficult choice. I think most coaches and players observing my game would say that Speed Pro is maybe a bit better choice. I decided to go with the Gravity Pro mainly because, again, it gives me more options. The pocketing and the time that the ball stays on the string bed is a bit longer, so I have a bit more options to pick from when competing. The power level is definitely low on the Gravity Pro. I even hit a bit harder with the Prestige Pro, so this is interesting. In theory, Gravity should be more forgiving, giving you more power. This was not the case for me, and I strung it quite low. The only difference I would say was with the Gravity Pro, I am having more spin potential. With Prestige Pro, it's a kind of one-trick pony, but yeah, this pony can really smack your ass. The next next round. Here let's go with Vcore 95 versus Gravity Pro. This one was a bit easy, just Gravity Pro giving me more consistent response and more forgiveness. The power level is quite similar, maybe even Vcore 95 is giving me a bit more. I modified the Vcore 95 as well, but the Gravity Pro is just easier to compete with. Vcore 95, yeah, a bit inconsistent in response, I would say, especially when you add mass to the frame. The jump from the string bed can sometimes be a bit random, a bit higher than planned. So yeah, Gravity Pro had a bit easier way, I would say, compared to the Solinco Whiteout, which also had fight against Yonex Vcore 98 Tour. This is a very interesting frame, but Whiteout overall was giving me a bit more control. More controlled option with still this hotter response on demand was quite addictive. Whiteout has this little issue with comfort where the Vcore 98 Tour is shining. So yeah, I dropped this comfort just to get the performance and more consistent response and connection to the ball. This connection, I believe, comes a little bit through this stiffness. Solinco Whiteout went to the next round. Diadem Elevate Tour versus Tecnifibre TF40. So like on the first round, TF40 versus Tfight 315, I was kind of deciding how much comfort and feel I can drop versus how much performance I can get. Here, actually, the Elevate Tour gave me enough comfort and enough feel with more performance. I am referring to this previous release, TF40. I have the newest edition with me, it's waiting to be reviewed, but yeah, let's focus on the tournament. Elevate Tour gave me bigger toolbox and bigger power potential with still great feel. It's kind of similar feel that I have with the Prestige Pro and Prestige Tour. So the swing style is a bit maybe slower. This guiding through the ball is quite addictive. Yeah, this feeling of the swing is just, you know, prestige-like, while giving me a slightly more spin potential from the 16 mains. And yeah, I think I mentioned all the rounds. All the rackets have some similarities and some differences. I'm quite happy with the final four. If I had to say which rackets are still in my head, like maybe I made a wrong decision or something, I would have to mention Head Prestige Pro and Head Prestige MP. So that will point to the Prestige line. I decided to go in both cases with something a bit more aggressive, a bit more hotter in response. You use a bit of this control to get more performance. I am a grinder, I need control, but I also need weapons. And this is a constant battle between how much consistent I can be versus how much aggressive I can be. Trying to find this middle point where it's consistent enough and hot enough to make more damage. Let me know, guys, what do you think about these picks? That's a quick one. Subscribe if you can, and see you soon. Bye. Are we best friends already?